Okay, so you want to get the lowdown on Troy, the 2004 movie, the one based on the Iliad, right?
Yeah.
We've got a whole bunch of stuff here. IMDb info, user reviews spanning, wow, like 20 years. Our mission today is basically to sift through all that and give you the key takeaways. What was the movie trying to do? How was it made? How did people actually feel about it? You know, the essentials.
Exactly. Consider this your shortcut. We're going to hit the big points, the production side, the themes people picked up on, how the actors landed,
Testing, yeah.
the whole deal with Homer's original story, the tech stuff, and of course, why it got such, well, varied reactions.
Okay, let's jump in. Production first. This wasn't a quick watch, was it? 2 hours, 43 minutes.
No, definitely an epic length. You got to settle in for that one.
And they went all out on the presentation for its time color, obviously, but also like Dolby Digital, SDDS, DTS sound, really trying to immerse you.
And that widescreen look, the 2.39.1 aspect ratio, that helps sell the scale, you know, big battles, big landscapes.
Totally. You need that wide frame.
And yeah, inspired by Homer's Iliad, though. We'll get into how inspired is the key word there. But the budget really tells a story, too. We're talking, what, $175 million, maybe even pushing $200 million.
Whoa. Yeah, that's serious money.
It signals huge ambition. They weren't making a small indie flick here.
No kidding. And you see where some of that money went. Those locations in Malta and Mexico.
Yeah.
They really gave it that ancient world feel.
Definitely grounded it a bit.
But then for the massive stuff, the huge armies, all those ships.
Yeah.
That's where the CGI came in, right?
Yeah, a blend of practical locations and digital effects. Pretty standard for big epics then, trying to get that massive scale on screen.
So, okay, that's the how. What about the what? The story itself.
Right, the plot. Well, the spark is Paris. Paris of Troy takes Helen.
Who's married to Menelaus, the king of Sparta.
Exactly. And boom, that's your Trojan War right there. That's the catalyst.
But looking at the reviews, people saw more than just a revenge story. Lots of talk about bigger themes.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, things like human ambition, you know, mortality, wanting a legacy, that kind of stuff tend to resonate.
That makes sense. Achilles' whole motivation is tied up in that, isn't it? Being remembered.
Totally. And reviewers also mention stuff like power versus envy.
Ah, Agamemnon.
Yeah. Greed versus pride, even like using your head versus just blind faith.
Interesting. It sounds like people found some depth there beyond just the surface story.
For sure. And one thing that really seemed to hit home for many was just how grim war is. It wasn't shown as this glorious thing.
More brutal and joyless.
Exactly. Joyless is a good word. And some people noted that the main characters weren't always, you know, perfect heroes. Some seemed kind of amoral or indecisive.
Flawed, basically. More human, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Messier, perhaps. Which leads into how the film kind of shifted the focus, didn't it? It wasn't just about Helen.
Right. Well, she's the reason it starts. A lot of the drama actually plays out between Achilles and Agamemnon. Their clashing egos and ambitions.
A power struggle.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the film. And speaking of shifts, this is a big one for Iliad fans. The gods are kind of sidelined.
Oh, right. In Homer's version, they're constantly interfering, choosing sides.
Totally. Picking favorites, causing chaos. But here, not so much. Characters might pray or mention the gods, but you don't see Zeus throwing lightning bolts.
And more of a secular take, then. Focused purely on the humans.
Pretty much. It's like they decided to tell a version of the Trojan War as if it could have happened without divine meddling. More historical, maybe?
Which must have pleased some people and really annoyed others.
You bet. We'll circle back to that. But yeah, it makes it a very different beast from the Iliad.
Okay, so let's talk about the people in the movie. The cast. Brad Pitt as Achilles. That was huge news.
Oh, yeah. Center stage. And opinions were, well, all over the place.
Ah, yeah. Some loved him, saw him as this complex, tragic figure. Others felt it was just Brad Pitt being Brad Pitt. Or maybe even miscast.
There was definitely a lot of focus on his physique, the training he did.
You couldn't miss that.
Yeah. But it's key that this Achilles isn't immortal, not like in some versions of the myth. He's the ultimate warrior, sure, but he's human. He can be hurt, he can die.
Which raises the stakes. Unlike Eric Bana as Hector, people seemed to really love him, didn't they?
Overwhelmingly positive, yeah. Noble, sympathetic. A lot of reviews called him the standout performance. The heart of the movie for many.
He's the guy you root for, even though you know how it ends.
Totally. Although some purists, you know, people who really knew the Iliad, felt Bana maybe didn't quite have the imposing physical presence described in the text.
Huh. A minor quibble for most, I guess.
Pretty minor, yeah. But then you get to Orlando Bloom as Paris.
Oof. Yeah, the reviews weren't quite as kind there, were they?
Generally, no. Words like weak, cowardly, unsympathetic pop up a lot.
Makes it hard to buy a whole war starting over him, some people said.
Right. And even when he tries to become a better fighter later on, some viewers found that transformation a bit, unconvincing.
Yeah, like suddenly he's a great archer.
Okay. It plays into that theme of the senselessness of war, perhaps. That it started for maybe not the noblest of reasons or people.
Possibly. And Diane Kruger as Helen, the face that launched 1,000 ships.
Also pretty mixed reactions there. People acknowledged her beauty, obviously.
Hard not to.
But many felt the character was underdeveloped. Kind of forgettable, some said. Like, the movie wasn't that interested in her story.
Which fits with that focus shifting more to Achilles and Hector and Agamemnon, maybe?
Could be. Deliberate choice. But then Peter O'Toole as King Priam.
Now there people seem to agree. Universal praise, almost.
Absolutely. A highlight for nearly everyone. He brought such dignity and sadness to the role.
He really did. And you also had Brian Cox choose scenery as the greedy Agamemnon.
Yep, very memorable.
And Sean Bean as the smart, cunning Odysseus.
Yeah.
Both pretty well received, it seemed like.
Generally, yeah. They fit those roles well. And we should mention Rose Byrne as Briseis.
Right, Achilles' love interest, who becomes a much bigger character here than in the Iliad.
Exactly. That relationship gives Achilles another dimension, something personal to fight for or react against, beyond just glory, which brings us back to the Iliad itself.
Yeah, the elephant in the room for a lot of viewers. We mentioned the gods being out.
Huge change. And the timeline, too. The Iliad covers part of a 10-year siege. The movie feels faster, way faster.
Weeks or months, maybe, not years.
Seems like it. And character fates are changed. Big ones. Like how Achilles dies. That's not how it happens in the most famous versions of the myth.
So the filmmakers really took some liberties.
Major liberties. You could argue they were aiming for a more streamlined, maybe more realistic take on the legend, finding the human core, stripping away the mythic layers.
But the purists, as the reviews call them, they weren't having it.
No, for them it was disrespectful, watering down a classic, losing the epic feel.
But the counter-argument you see is, well, it's a movie. It has to make changes. It needs drama that works on screen for a modern audience.
Exactly. That's the eternal debate with adaptations, isn't it? Fidelity versus cinematic storytelling.
True. Okay, shifting gears slightly, back to the technical side. Even people who didn't love the story often admitted it looked amazing.
Oh, yeah. Visually, it's pretty stunning. The sets, the costumes, the sheer scale of the battles.
Impressive stuff.
The cinematography got a lot of praise, too. Sweeping shots, that epic feel. And the CGI for 2004 held up pretty well for most people, creating those huge armies and the city of Troy.
Although,
Yeah.
you do see some debate. Some viewers miss the old school epics with thousands of actual extras.
Yeah.
Felt the CGI lacked weight.
Yeah, that's a common discussion. The tangibility factor, CGI versus real people on screen, always a trade-off.
And the music? James Horner's score.
Also divisive. Some found it epic, powerful, perfect for the movie. Found it kind of generic, or even said it sounded like his scores for other movies, like he was repeating himself.
Huh. Music is so subjective, I guess.
Totally. Which really brings us to the overall reception. As we've been saying, this movie split audiences right down the middle.
You really see it in the ratings.
Yeah.
Ones and tens, right next to each other. It's either love or hate for a lot of people.
And the dividing line seems to be. Did you watch it wanting a fun, spectacular action movie, or did you watch it wanting a faithful adaptation of the Iliad?
Right. If you wanted the first, you were probably pretty happy. If you wanted the second, maybe less so.
Exactly. And lots of viewers defend it purely on entertainment value, saying critics were maybe being too snobby or too focused on the Iliad.
But the criticisms kept coming back to similar things. Pacing issues in parts.
Yeah, it drags a bit for some.
The character of Paris, definitely. And some finding the dialogue a bit cheesy or soapy.
Corny is a word that popped up, maybe undermining the epic tone they were going for sometimes.
On the flip side, though, people praised the action, obviously. Big time.
The battles are definitely a highlight for many.
And the attempt to show complex motivations, not just good guys versus bad guys, trying to make it more morally gray.
A more nuanced take on the conflict. And it's worth remembering, despite critics being mixed, it made a ton of money.
Right. Huge box office success. So audiences overall showed up for it.
They absolutely did.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, Troy. Visually spectacular, definitely ambitious, but also really divisive. It gave us this more human, godless version of the Trojan War. That choice, plus the star-studded cast getting mixed reviews, particularly for Pitt and Bloom, means it's still debated today. Is it faithful? Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
Depends who you ask.
That sums it up pretty well. And it kind of leaves us with a final thought, maybe for everyone listening. Thinking about Troy and other movies like it, what is the real value in adapting these ancient myths or historical epics?
Good question.
Like, where's the line between making something entertaining for today and being faithful to a story that's thousands of years old? Does one matter more than the other?
And what actually makes an adaptation like this work or not work?
Yeah, exactly. Something to chew on. Maybe it even makes you want to go read the Iliad itself or check out some other takes on these old stories.